And you can keep typing in the chat box, or you can use your microphone since we're the only two here. That's fine. Whatever you want. I want you to feel comfortable. So we are recording now, and we are going to start talking about Project 3. So let me find that. Project 2. Where is Project 3? Oh, I got to go a little farther. There it is. Okay. So Project 3 is the financial project. This is actually my favorite project of the three. I think it's the most practical, I guess, which is kind of why I like it. So there are three pieces to this project. So the first thing you have to do is decide what you want to do. And the nice thing about this is you can do whatever you want. So if you're not really sure what you want to do, choose. You can say, you know what, I really think accounting sounds interesting, so I'm going to be an accountant. Or, I really thought about medical assisting. Or you want to be a bongo player in the Philippines. Whatever you want to do. So you just choose a career. And they have this website that you can go to find the median salary, or you can just Google it, right? If you want to be an accountant and you want to live in, Bora Bora, you can type in average salary of an accountant in Bora Bora and get it from Google. It's fine. You don't have to go to this site. You can get it from wherever you want. So you figure out what you want to do, and you get your annual income. So the whole basis of this project is to compare yourself in whatever your future is going to be versus a high school graduate. And so for this particular project, we say that a high school graduate earns $22,000 a year. So that's their salary. You find your salary from either this website here or from Googling, right? So then you're doing this comparison. So part one is you're doing an income comparison. And these white boxes here, these are the bullet points. That's how I'm grading your project. So you'll see the first bullet. Your reflection paper should explain what your desired area of employment is and your salary. So if you're going to be, I want to be an accountant in Bora Bora, the median annual salary for that, or you can use the average salary. I don't get too picky about median versus average in this case, is $69,000 a year. Boom, you just earned yourself like 10 points. Then the second part is you're comparing your salary with the high school graduate. So if you're making $60,000 and the high school graduate's making $22,000, you could say I'm making $38,000 more than the high school graduate, or whatever. Using absolute and relative change statements, those come from absolute relative change is sections 23 and 24. So, but just which one is higher by how much, that kind of thing. And that's the second statement. So that's part one. Okay, interrupt me if you have any questions. Part two, you're getting to a housing comparison. Now, we talk about homes in section 21 with loans. So this is where you're going to get into the Excel formulas that go with the housing. And we'll talk about these a little bit today. So, okay, now this part. You and your high school counterpart spend 1/5 of your gross monthly income on house payments. So what that means, let's just go again with you're earning $60,000 a year, right? This is my made up salary. 1/5 of that. So basically if we divide that by 5, first we got to divide it by 12, excuse me, to make that monthly. Okay. So, 60,000, I want to make sure I have everything correct here, divided by 12, that means monthly, this is $5,000, and you want 1/5 of that. So if we divide by 5, that means you could spend $1,000 a month on your house payment. This is how much you want your house payment to be, no more than $1,000. Your salary from the high school salary, that's for part one. For part one, you would do a comparison of those two that way, yeah. But not in the housing comparison. In the housing comparison, you're going to do the same thing twice. You're going to do it once for you and once for the high. So what I'm doing up here, where I started with the 60,000 divided by 12, and I took that answer and divided it by 5 to get 1,000. This is what I did for your salary, and then you would do the same thing for the high school. So for the high school graduate, you would start with the 22,000, divide it by 12 to get an answer, and then you would take that answer, divide it by 5 to get the payment. So you're doing everything twice in the housing comparison because your goal is to find out how much house you can afford. And that starts with finding out how much you can do for the payment. And then you're going to use your Excel function to find the value of your house. You will use the present value function with all of the appropriate pieces in here. Okay. Now, appropriate pieces like you have to find the APR. Well, that's not given to you. You're going to need to, I mean, if you're going to buy a house, you have to go to a bank, right? Or a credit union or some other place to get a loan. So you're going to go to, where do you bank? You bank at PNC. So you go to the PNC website or Wells Fargo, Fifth Third, I don't really care where you go, and you find their mortgage rates. Are you doing a 30-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage? You have to look that up, and that's how you figure out your APR, which is going to go in your PV function. All right, so that's kind of the pieces in order to get this first step. But again, you have to do it twice, once for you and once for the high school graduate. Part 2 is just explain what you did. Cite your sources for your mortgage rates. Where did you find the mortgage rates? Website. I went to the PNC website, pnc.com. That's how I found this. The last part, where do you want to live? If you want to live in Warsaw, great. Go to Zillow. Look up houses in Warsaw. If you use this PV function and it says that you can afford a $170,000 house, can you find a house on Zillow in Warsaw that you want to live for $170,000? And that's what you use. I went to Zillow. This is what I found. Blah 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 blah. If according to this you can only afford $70,000 and you want to live in Hawaii, that's probably not going to make it, right? So you're just using the numbers that you have, and you're playing around online, and there's no right or wrong answers to this last piece. You can live, and this can be made up. You can see, Oklahoma City. It doesn't matter. You're just looking at different places of what kind of house can you afford it, and could you afford to live in different places. Okay, so that's the housing comparison in a nutshell. And then the third part is raises. So it says the high school graduate does not get a raise. So they're only earning $22,000 and that's it, no raise. But you get a 2.5% raise every year for the next 5 years, right? So if you think about that, so if you earn $60,000 a year, if you multiply that by 2.5%, and again, I'm making up this 60,000. That means you get a $1,500 raise for year 1. So now your salary is $61,500. So that's after the first year of raises. And then you would just do it again, multiply by 0.025. And you can do this different ways. But it says each year for the next 5 years. So you want to do that 5 times so you can see how your salaries are increasing. And then you answer these 3 questions. Comparing your initial salary with your salary for 5 years. So your year 5 salary, you're going to compare that answer to your $60,000 that you started with, or whatever your starting amount was. How you determine it, you're going to need to explain your process. And then how will this change your mortgage value? So just going back to your house, thinking about the divided by 12 divided by 5, could you afford, or how much more house could you afford if you got a bigger raise? Okay. So that's kind of the basic piece, but there's just those 3 pieces. And so you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8 white boxes on this page. So there's only 8 things that I'm grading. And that means each one of these is worth 12 points. And then I give you 12 times. I give you 4 points for having your name on it. Is basically what it is, because the 8 times 12 is 96. So if you skip one of these boxes, you automatically lose 12 points. So you definitely don't want to skip any of these boxes. You want to make sure that you address each one of these pieces. Yep. Okay, so that's kind of I ran through it, in 8 or 9 minutes there. Yeah, you're welcome. Do you have any other questions in regards to that? And of course, you're starting this very early. Well, I guess not that early, it's due next week. But I'm shocked that people are actually working on it already. So good for you, because I think it's great to get it going and get it taken care of. But of course, as you're working on things, if you have questions, let me know. You only have to turn in a Word document for this. I do not need an Excel document. Because you're going to explain what Excel function you use. You're going to explain your process. So I don't need to see the Excel because you're going to tell me about it. And so that's sufficient. Yeah. Anybody else have questions over project 3? Because that is good. Okay. Then while we're talking about projects, and that's okay that you're not there yet, totally okay. Project 3 is due the 27th, which is in 10 days, because that is also pretty much the last day of the class, right? That's when everything that's when your third exam is due and all of that. Yeah, Rochelle, I'm with you. You want to get things done. Project 2 is due on the 20th, which I believe is this Friday. Yep, this Friday. So do any of you have questions over project 2? Because I want to make sure that we kind of, since that's due Friday, if you haven't done that yet, let's talk about that, because projects are, they're weighted a little more heavily than, a homework assignment, because they do take more time. So there's 3 projects. Those together, what are 10% of your grade? So that's kind of, those are big chunks. So any questions on project 2, or do you guys feel good about project 2? Done and turned it in. Okay, Isadora, Layla, you guys, either one of you have questions on project 2? None? Okay. Well, in that case, we won't talk about project 2. Good, good. All right, so let me go back to the modules. I'm not really sure what you guys want to do today. Looking at where we're at, so we just finished exam 2 last week, and scores were great. I was pleased. I shouldn't say great. There were a couple low scores here and there, but you have that every semester. Overall, though, I was very pleased. I don't think I've had this many A's on exams ever. So I'm very pleased with the quality of work that a lot of people are doing. A's and B's, just lots of them. So good, good, good. So with that being said, then sections 19 and 20 were all due yesterday, and I didn't talk about them last week. Rochelle, no, exams are graded. I kind of graded them as they came in a little bit, and I finished them this morning. I had a few that I hadn't gotten paperwork from proctors. The proctors didn't send their stuff in right away, so I had to wait on them. But as of this morning, all exams are graded. All of project 1, those are all graded. The only thing that I'm not caught up on, the Excel assignment that was due last night, I haven't graded that yet because I haven't done the answer key yet. So that's on my list of things to do after class today, is to do that answer key so I can grade those tonight. And then everything else I'm caught up on. So I have a few things I need to do tonight, but then I want to start grading project 2. So people that have turned in project 2s, I want to start grading those as well, because I know in the next 10 days, life is about to get super crazy. So just in terms of how much to be done. So as you look in your grade book, if you have questions about things, of course, let me know. But your grade should be pretty up to date with what was due. If you've turned in stuff ahead of time, then you are ahead of the curve. But the review quiz for exam 2, that's been graded and put in the grade book and all of that fun stuff. So I think we're doing okay on all of that. But anyway, okay, so so you had some Excel assignments to do. You had quiz. Okay, so you had all of that. That was all due yesterday. So now we're into, if you look at what's coming up, sections 21 and 22 are due tomorrow. So I'm hoping that you guys have at least started to work on that stuff, because otherwise, you're gonna feel really bombarded. So this is loans and retirement. So 21 is loans, 22 is retirement. And then 23 and 24 are due on Friday. And that's absolute and relative change. That stuff's going to go together and not be too bad. And then 25 and 26 are due next Monday. So we have 6 sections due before the next time we see each other. And next week is the final exam week. So really, you almost don't want to wait until next week to do sections 27 and 28 because you need to be prepared for your final exam next week. So it's essentially, you have like 8 sections to do this week. So, so what I'm saying is we don't have time to go over 8 sections today. I don't even know that I can get through 6 sections today. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that you guys understand exactly what is due and when. I want to answer your questions. I want to make sure that you guys feel confident going into next week. And then I want to be a resource for you. And that is my goal, right? I understand that you're going to feel completely overwhelmed for the next 10 days. If you don't, high five, let me know how you do it. But this class is crazy in terms of how much you really have to do in 8 weeks. And you guys are just knocking it out of the ballpark. So with that being said, are you guys kind of okay with that mindset? And we can do some problems. I don't know. The 3 of you that are here, where are you at in terms of prepping for this, doing work, homework? What have you been doing? Because I want to make sure to help you guys do whatever you need to do, but I want to make sure I can't do 8 sections in an hour and a half. I will talk a mile a minute. You'll get nothing out of it. It won't be productive. So I want to use this time. I don't want to waste your time either. So all right, so Rochelle is on WebWork 24. So good, you're doing really well and working on project 3. What about you other 2? Where are you guys at? And there's no right or wrong answer here, right? I just kind of want to get a feel for what we're doing. Keeping your head above water. Exactly. And that's about what this class is about at this point. There's just so much. So I guess my question is now, what's going to be the most beneficial to you for the next hour and a half? Is it going to be beneficial for me to talk about things, or is it hey, yeah, and don't worry, because remember, you do have 2 free homework that I dropped the 2 lowest scores. And if you get, if you have 3 zeros, so 2 drop and 1 stays, 1 0 is not going to kill you. So don't get too excited about that. That's what I would say is, do what you can do. But if you miss one or you don't get something done entirely, don't beat yourself up about it. Because there's a lot going on right now. Okay, so back to this. We've got an hour and a half. Would it be beneficial for me to do a couple examples, or because there are videos for all of this stuff, right? Or would it be more beneficial to for you guys to work while you're in here on your computers, ask me questions when you have them, or do you want to talk about Excel assignments coming up? Let's see, what project 3, this Excel assignment's not there. We have a trend line Excel assignment coming up. And that's it. Just one more. Oh, because that's blacked out. How many Excel assignments do you guys have left? Because some things are blocked out on my end. I see everything that's in the course because I'm the instructor, but not everything is assigned every semester. Only 1 is left. Man, I have more than that written down. See, my stuff's not even right. Okay. Good. Well, do you want to talk about the trend lines, or do you feel good about things? Because mortgages, you have Did you have to do a mortgage assignment in Excel? Yeah, we can totally talk about the trend lines. Okay, so you had the mortgage assignment in 12. That's due tomorrow. Yep, okay. And then we have trend lines. I did not keep very good notes on my piece of paper here. Trend lines from section 14. Okay, all right. So you want to talk about trend lines. Do you want to talk about the mortgage one? Rochelle, I know you already did the mortgage one. But do you want to, so you want to talk about trend lines first, and then you want to talk about the other one? Leave the student view. I'm going to need Excel. Okay, you know, let's just bring up the trend line assignment. Okay, so, because they give you an Excel spreadsheet. So here's the deal with, wait, they give that to you? Timeout. Timeout. Hey, so back in the day, you had to create the scatter plot, but you don't have to do that anymore. Okay, so here's the deal. You are given all of this information about years and productions. This is so oil production, and you're given this scatter plot. I wonder if there's a way. Man, that thing is stuck. Oh, I got to enable editing. I feel like it's a Monday. Okay, so now I can look at the questions here, and so this is kind of really helpful for you guys, I guess. You can almost do this assignment right here while we're talking about it. I'm not going to give you all the answers, but I'll give you enough that'll get you going. Okay, so if you look at the graphic that they give you, let me get a pen so I can write on this. So you see these dots. These dots, this is called the scatter plot. A scatter plot is simply a graph that it's used by dots, and it's graphing real data. And as you guys know, in the real world, data is almost never in a straight line, right? It's got this funky up and down business going. But if it's funky and it's up and down, it's hard to predict what's going to happen next. So that's where the concept of trend line comes in. So you can see, this dotted line that cuts through that straight, this is what we call a trend line or a regression line or a line of best fit. That line is what we use to predict. We can use that to predict future pieces. And it basically cuts through the middle of all of the data. Now, to find a trend line by hand is kind of a pain. You've got to like use a straight edge and estimate the middle of your graph and blah, 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 blah. You're never going to have to do that. Excel does it for you, right? So Excel, you graph the scatter plot, and you don't have to do that either. You get the trend line. This equation right here is the equation of the trend line. And if you recall, which you probably don't because this is sections 25 and 26, that we have the equation y equals mx plus b with the slope and the y-intercept. So the m represents the slope, the b represents the y-intercept. So you can see that our slope in this case is the number right in front of x. So the slope is negative 0.0668. Our y-intercept is 142.14. Okay, now what do those pieces mean? All right, so I'm going to explain these, and they may or may not help you answer some questions. Okay, so the slope is negative. Negative simply means you have a decrease, right? I'm running out of space. I need more space. Okay, so if our slope, I'm writing this again over here, we can make any number a fraction by putting it over 1. Okay, slope is represented by your y values over your x values. And so your y values are on the vertical axis, which is millions of barrels per day. And the bottom is the x-axis, which is years since 1960. Okay, so knowing that, your slope, and by the way, this is the answer to number 2, if you're writing this down. The interpretation of your slope, because it's negative, it means your barrels per day is decreasing. It's decreasing because it's negative. So your barrels of oil produced per day is decreasing 0.0668, right? That's my number, million. That's millions of barrels every year since 1960. And that's the basic interpretation of your slope. So you're decreasing your oil production by 0.0668 million barrels per day every year since 1960. That is what our slope tells us. I'm giving you a minute because that's the answer to number 2. Okay. I guess I could have started with number 1, but I really went just to number 2. Okay. Erase the drawings. Let's go to a different color. Okay. Everybody good? Ready to move on from number 2? Okay. So 3 and 4, we'll come back to 1. But 3 and 4 talk about using the trend line. So the trend line, again, is this equation, because that goes with the line. So first it says, use it to estimate the production for 2014. All right, so all you do, so since the x-axis is given in years, we're just saying that means x has a value of 2014. So you'll take that year and you'll plug it in for x. Right? So you're going to just do the, I don't know why. Oh, yeah. So y equals negative 0.0668 times 2014. You'll do that first, and then you'll just add the 142.14. Okay. So that's how you get to estimate the oil production. That's the first part of that. And then it says use this to compare to the actual. Okay, well, let me erase the drawings for a minute. This graph ends in 2014. So the number you find by plugging 2014 in for x is this value right here. Because remember, you're estimating for that dotted line. But the actual is up here. So can you, without even knowing that number, let's just call this number y, because it doesn't matter what the value is. In general, what can you tell me about y compared to this actual value up here? Just in general, what can you tell me? They're both positive numbers. Okay, there you go. There you go. So I think that's kind of what you meant. The y is smaller than the actual number. Yeah. Y is the estimate, and the estimate is way lower, right? So the estimate is going to be lower than the actual. Exactly. So that's the answer to the second part of 3. Is that your estimate is, or you could say y. Either one is totally fine. It's going to be lower than the actual. So you're going to find an actual number for the first part, and then you're going to use that for the second part there. Okay, now I can't really help you with number 4 because everybody's answers are going to be different. It says use this to estimate for your birth year. So if you were born in 1985, then you would plug 1985 in for x. If you were born in 1972, you would type in 1972 for x. And then you would kind of, answer these other questions based off of the number that you received from that. So it's very much like number 3, except you're using the x value for whatever year you were born. Okay. And then now let's go back and talk about number 1. R squared. Okay, so R squared is the coefficient of determination, which is crap. We don't do anything with that. But we need to talk about R, because R squared leads to R, and then R tells you whether or not your data has good correlation. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to find the square root. because we have r squared, and the opposite of squaring something is square rooting something. So what is the square root of 0.4945? Pardon me, my nose is running. Okay, you guys did a great job finding the square root. Now my question is going to be this. Does your dotted line go up or down? The trend line, it goes down. Down implies negative. So what you're going to do is you're going to chuck a negative sign in front of your R value. Okay? So your answer of 703 is correct because that's what your calculator tells you. Square roots are always going to be positive. You have to determine if the negative sign belongs there based on whether or not your trend line goes up or down. If it goes down, it's negative. If it goes up, it's positive. Okay, so there's your R value. Now, the way this works, the closer this value is to 1, the more correlation you have. And so this is kind of a tricky, but if R is 0.9 or bigger, you would say there is a strong linear correlation. If you're somewhere between 0.7 and 0.899, you would say it's, I would say, somewhat strong. And if it's less than 0.7, we call it weak. Okay, so we're at 0.703. So does this indicate correlation? You could say there is a somewhat strong linear, well, I should throw the word negative in there, negative linear correlation between variables. So the somewhat strong is because it's a 0.7. It's negative because my line is going down, and it's linear because this trend line is a straight line. Okay, and you could be more specific if you want to say between, and you want to name the variables, years since 1960 and millions of barrels per day, but that really is a fine answer. There is a somewhat strong negative linear correlation between variables. That would be your answer to number 1. Okay. Man, I should be writing these down that I have my answer key done. It's a good idea. So we did 1, 2, and 3. Well, most of 3. 4 you're going to do on your own because it's your birth year. And then number 5, I'm going to let you guys figure out number 5 on your own. Should the trend line model be used to estimate for the year 2025? Why or why not? They talk about that kind of thing in the book. So when you're working through the videos for the packet or doing your web work, you're going to come across something that's called the scope of the model. All right, so the scope of the model is going to help you answer part 5, but I'm going to let you guys figure that one out when you get there. Okay? Okay, any other questions about that one for right now? Okay, good. We got most of that done, hopefully, so that will be a little bit less stressful for you when it comes time to do that later. Do you want to do a quick look at the mortgage assignment as well? I know Rochelle has it done, but there's not a whole lot I can show you with that one, kind of just how the spreadsheet works, like where you put your numbers and then it kind of goes from there. Or what else would you like to see today? I know that your time is valuable in the last week and a half of the semester, so I'm not going to just do a bunch of problems that you guys can watch videos on your own and see. So I am going to post a couple of help videos for these sections, like extra videos. You don't feel like you have to watch them, but if you're in section 24 or 26 and you're like, man, I need a couple extra um, examples. I will post videos from past semesters where I did more examples and you can look at. But if going through the packet and using those examples is getting you where you need to be and you're getting through stuff, then don't worry about them, and just keep plugging away. I am going to be on my email pretty much constantly for the next week and a half because I understand, getting through things. The only exception is that Saturday night I have plans. I'll be out of town. And Monday night I have plans. I'll be out of town. But the rest of the time, I should at least be able to get back to you pretty quickly if you need something. So you just got to let me know. But then next week, remember, is the final exam. So it's due Friday. You can take it anytime you want. I will grade those as they come in, assuming that I get the proctor form. So as soon as the proctor form comes in after you've taken your exam, I will grade them. That way you know where you're at. Class next week, Rochelle, I will be here live 12:30 to 2:30 next week. But it's what you need. So if you're ready for your exam and you don't have to come, but if you have some extra last minute questions or you want to run through some things, we can do whatever. But I will be here, yes. And just like today, I'm going to be here until 2:30, so we can be done with our formal chat. If you guys are just trying to chip away, you can work on your homework, right now while you're in class, and you can just ask me questions if you have them. Because again, I just want to be a resource for you. I don't want to take up your time. I want to make sure that you guys have the time that you need. And I know an hour and a half is a lot of time. You can get a lot done in an hour and a half, and you don't need to just listen to me, verbally vomit through a computer. So tell me now what you guys need from me or what you want from me. If you're good, if you want to keep working, but you want to stay, if you want to work at home but stay in here for questions, just let me know, and I will keep monitoring the chat box, or you can verbally talk. Or if you want me to do examples, I can do that too. I want to do whatever is going to be most beneficial for you at this time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for now.